Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every month we deep dive into different aspects of cinema, directors, genres, actors, or franchises. It doesn't matter, because it's always fun at the Film Club. I'm Dean.
I'm Becky.
And this month we're going through the filmography of Johnny Depp. And this week we're starting with
A Nightmare on Elm Street.
And we have a guest this week.
We do. Kind of his first time to the podcast, but not really.
Yeah, I was just kind of like there during Brandon's, but like good to be here officially. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Would you like to tell everyone your name?
Sure. My name is Dyllan. Yeah. How's it going, everyone out there? All you listeners. I'm going to be whispering in your ear for the next couple of minutes.
Is The Warriors one of your favorite movies? Because you got like the Warrior announcer vibe going on, you know?
No. But I do like, I have actually been thinking a lot about like that concept for something recently.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
At lowest of keys, I kind of want to go back and rewatch The Warriors. That movie is way better than I remember it, like every time I rewatch it. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street. And Nightmare on Elm Street, Dyllan, we brought you in because is this your favorite movie or in the top 5 favorite movies? Because I know this is one of those like personal favorites of yours.
It's in my top 5. So Requiem's number 1. You could toss like Good Time in there, and then Nightmare is like number 3. I think like it's the only horror movie in my top 5, but like I just know that like there really isn't like any other horror film or like slasher film like it, especially like coming out of its time. Like when I think about like films and like what I enjoy like out of horror films, like Nightmare is pretty much all of it.
This is interesting because I remember we were getting food once and we were talking about like horror films or whatever. And I think you were like, if I remember right, you were like John Carpenter, greatest like director of horror films, genre films, whatever. And I was like, oh man, like The Thing, that must be your favorite. And you're like, no, like Nightmare on Elm Street is still like looms large over the entire horror genre for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I give like The Thing its credit for being like probably one of the best. Like it's one of the films that one of the horror films that like transcends like the genre, and it just kind of like it's just really good like across the board.
Mm-hmm. But
like Nightmare for me is just kind of like you're
looking at that VHS tape on the desk right now, and you're like, I don't know how to describe how beautiful you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, because I get a lot of shit for liking Nightmare.
Why? It's a great film.
I don't know. I guess like people, once again, it's a horror movie, so people kind of like look down on it. So like I'm used to like people being like, you don't know how many times like I'll go through like my entire like fucking like top 5 or like just films that I really like, and as soon as I mention Nightmare, their face changes. It's like the whole demeanor just drops.
They just don't understand.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Like when you're like, Dean, what's some of your favorite movies? I'm like, oh, Back to the Future, 2001, Harold and Maude, and you're like, what the fuck you say? Harold and Maude? Really?
No, that's different. That's different. Because there's no shade going towards you picking Harold and Maude. It's just more or less like
fucking really
liking that old lady love.
Or just like
that movie's beautiful. All right, I cry at the end of that movie. Shut the fuck up.
It's just an unexpected pick. Like I've never heard someone say Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's a little weird.
It's not that weird. But Becky, so Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm assuming this is an old standard for you.
Oh yeah, I've watched this since I was a kid. It's one of the horror movies that scared the crap out of me the first time I watched it.
Yeah, this like out of like Halloween, Friday, Chucky, all of them.
I'm a Michael Myers stan. I love him. He's my favorite slasher. But Freddy was the one that traumatized me first.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing because like Nightmare on Elm Street, this is the only one I would qualify as still scary.
Yeah.
Like Halloween, I think is like a more like tense and like crafted, suspenseful, like crafted film. Friday the 13th is the bedrock of quality. It is just okay across every movie. It's my favorite. All right, give me a head. But Nightmare's the one that it's like, no, this is actually like a still holds up, silly, scary movie because the concept is so fucking weird and creepy.
I watched this late last night just to kind of put myself in that creepy vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to stop and watch the rest of it in the morning. I was getting a little spooked.
It was the high school scene. That was it. Was it the blood drag? That's always where I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep going.
It's the alleyway with Tina, where it's just the two of them out there, and it's just he's, scratching the walls, and then he just starts to chase her in the dark. It scares the crap out of me every time I see it.
It's crazy because, like, even though, like, sometimes it looks cheesy, like, you still, like, bypass, like, all of it. You just still, like, get so into it. Like,
yeah.
Like, it definitely doesn't look as, like, terrifying as, like, a lot of the things that are coming out now. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, like, because of the story and because, like, what Wes Craven, like, really crafted in the film, like, you suspend your disbelief no matter what.
Tina in that body bag in the middle of the hallway is, like, seared into my brain. It's just one of those images where it's just, like, it's not supposed to be a thing, but it is, and it's just horrific.
It's one of those beautiful things because it takes very, like, surreal dream logic where it's just like, oh, that's weird, but it doesn't make sense. Like, when, like, for some reason there's the lamb in the boiler room at the beginning, mm-hmm. and I'm like, why is that there? And then I take the whole scene, like,
because he's bringing the lambs to slaughter.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? Yeah, like, that's, like, the nice philosophical thing. But in my brain, I'm like, why is that there? This is weird. Why are there lambs?
Do we
why are there
talk
leaves
about
in the
dreams
hallway?
That you have?
I have weird dreams. Let me have those. All right.
Where Dean, he's like, oh, this is a weird, subject that's happening. I'm just going to fly away. I'm like, I have never flown away in any of my dreams. I have to go through them.
Do you... Wait, what does that mean?
Oh,
like,
okay.
So you just fly away.
So this is a thing. When we did Mulholland Drive with Thomas, and Thomas went in deep on, like, the movie's like a metaphor, it's a dream logic kind of film, and we talked about this. So I have a weird thing, and this has been a thing since I was, like, a little kid. I'm a lucid dreamer, like, naturally, so if I'm in a dream, I become, like, hyper aware that it's a dream and I can do shit. So, like, in, like, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, where it's like, oh, take control of your dream or whatever. Yeah, that's just, like, every dream I have, so I'm like, oh, this is weird. I can literally, like, fly away, or, like, I'm gonna, oh, you're not real, and they'll, like, just blink out of existence and shit, because I'm, weird like that. I'm assuming I'm in the small minority of people who do that.
Yeah, I'm completely jealous.
It's pretty cool, by the way.
I tell them about my bad dreams. They're like, well, boo, just fly away. And I'm like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Once you realize it's a dream, you're like, oh, all right. And you start flying away and, just do whatever you want.
I think the only time, like, I ever realize I'm in, like, a really, really bad situation, it's like, what are those things called? Sleep paralysis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're like stuck and you, like you can't move, like you just feel like trapped.
Yeah.
That normally happens for me whenever there's, like, something in front of my nose, so I'm breathing, like, a cloth in, or like I like,
mm-hmm.
the blankets come over your head or something like that.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm suffocating. So the only way to like I start panicking, and the only way, like, I actually get out of that is if I, like, keep like trying to move my body, and then eventually I'll launch up. And, like, my heart's racing and everything.
You'll look like Tina at the beginning of the movie when she wakes up.
Absolutely.
Just in the nice whitey, nightgown or whatever, some cuts on the stomach. It's a whole thing.
The whole slash through and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Tina's mom. Either, honey, you gotta stop dreaming like this, or trim your nails.
And then
Goodbye.
And then Robert Englund's manager comes in, he's like, come on, baby, we gotta go. Like, also, yeah, that is Robert Englund's manager in that cameo role as Tina's mom's boyfriend.
I didn't know. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I found that out. I listened to the commentary track for the movie, and that was one of those tidbits. I'm like, wait, really? But yeah, that's like the beauty of Nightmare on Elm Street is, like, all of us have bad dreams. Like, it's a very universal thing.
There's no escaping it.
No escaping it. Some of us have dreams that are, like, so real, and, like, or you have dreams where it's like, fuck, I felt like I was dying, and then I woke up and was like, oh, that was just a dream. Oh, thank God. But, yeah, this is also one of those movies that is just spawned from Wes Craven, who is Wes Craven's a weird director. Is he one of the GOAT horror movie directors?
Absolutely.
I like how Dyllan just nodded so aggressively the headphones almost fell off.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely, like, at the table. I don't know. We'd have to really, like, look at who else we put, like, maybe John Carpenter gets the title. But, like,
we'll think about it like this on our Mount Rushmore, the great horror movie directors. I think Carpenter's up there.
Mm-hmm.
George A. Romero, is he on the?
Yeah.
He gets it. He gets on there, but I don't think you can call him necessarily the GOAT. Because I think he stayed so comfortably in one, like, area, and, like, he just really, like, mastered zombies.
Yeah, George A. Romero.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean he
did also, like, vampire stuff in Martin, and he's I think it's the thing where he was very comfortable in his zombie genre because that's the stuff he could get made.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also one of those guys who like really pushed for like independent filmmaking. We're gonna make our political movies, you know, how we want to make them. But I can definitely see where you're getting at because Carpenter's career, he has a solid decade of like, I'm gonna do like every genre and make like a top 5 movie in every genre I'm in. Let's just do that.
Yeah, you just pop in and there's just like weird shit everywhere, man. You gotta love John Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
And then he made Starman.
He did make Starman.
I didn't see Starman.
Jeff Bridges got an Oscar nomination playing an
It'll
alien.
make you cry.
It's great.
Oh.
It made us cry.
It was weird.
Dean saw the DVD today and he started crying again.
Lies and slander. She lies a lot. Don't listen to her lies. But Wes Craven, so in your opinion, he's on the Mount Rushmore of like at least like slasher directors, right? Because he does like Nightmare on Elm Street, he does like Shocker, he does Last House on the Left, he does Scream. I mean, just the fact you launch 2 separate like all-time horror slasher franchises, that's pretty solid, right?
I think Wes is a little different than George Romero.
Mm-hmm.
Because while he like mostly like operated in slashers, like he offered like, I feel like his work kind of like went above the like that specific like subgenre. Mm-hmm. Like Nightmare, for instance, right? Like slashers at that time was just kind of like a man killing, you know.
It was the Halloween clones, right?
Yeah, Halloween clones, or like specifically because it was the 80s, like I think everybody was copying like Friday's formula.
Mm-hmm.
That's the famous story, right? Friday the 13th copied Halloween, and then everyone copied Friday. So, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Friday the 13th. I love that franchise. Again, bedrock of quality. C movies across the board, but goddamn it, they're fun C's, right? But
I mean, Jason is your boy.
I love it, but it's like, man, it took until Friday the 13th Part 6 before we got a good Friday movie. God damn it.
I mean, for me, it fell off like after the 3rd one.
Have you not? Please tell me you've seen Friday Part 6. Jason Lives.
6 is pretty good.
All of them.
Friday 6 is the best of that franchise, my guy.
Maybe I'll do a rewatch, but bro, like, no.
I wish we did a video version of this because Dylan is looking at me like I was like, bro, I'm telling you, just a little heroin, it'll be fine, my guy. Just a taste, man.
No, I mean, like, I tried to go through like every series, and like Friday was like the one where I was just kind of like, by the end of it, I was just kind of like, oh, I'm glad this is over. But like, I kind of had.
Oh, and that wasn't Hellraiser?
Oh yeah, no, it was getting worse with that one.
You're like, for Friday, they're all the same. None of them are good, but none of them are that bad. Hellraiser, oh, it lets you know they get bad.
Yeah, no.
Just take me out now. I don't want to finish this.
Oh god, once you get to the 4th one, you're just like, man, I wonder if that beam could support my weight. Let's give that a shot. Hellraiser fucking sucks so bad.
But like with Nightmare, like as you go on, like at least they're trying different ways to kind of like keep like the series like alive. A lot of it doesn't work, in my opinion. I think also that one kind of falls off. Like Nightmare falls off after the 3rd one, like badly. And like the 5th one, my opinion,
Dream Child?
Yeah, horrible.
Really?
Horrible.
I think it jumps the shark. It jumps the shark after like 3 is probably like the last good one in the series, and 4 is the downtrend of being like, okay, it's like okay, but I don't know. I have a soft spot for 5. Freddy's Dead, the 6th one.
6.
That one's actually bad, which is funny because then Johnny Depp appears in that one.
Yeah. Him and Breckin Meyer. So if you're a fan of Road Trip or Garfield,
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the back of the box real quick, and then we're gonna like get into the movie because
we literally have the back of the box today.
We do have the VHS back of the box.
Do you want to read the back of the box?
All right, this is true.
Because Dean can't read his own handwriting.
I really can't. But we have the VHS copy of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm gonna read the back of the box.
Don't choke.
I'm gonna try not to. Nancy is having nightmares. Something in her. Haunted sleep wants to kill her. Something monstrous, something unstoppable. But she has more to fear. Much, much more. Her high school friends, she discovers, are having the same fiendish dreams, and they are being butchered, systematically slaughtered in their sleep by the predatory monster of their shared nightmares. When baffled investigating police ignore her chilling explanation, which, yeah, the cops in this movie fucking suck, Nancy prepares to traverse into the hellish realm of nightmares to wage her own extraordinary battle with the ghastly killer. There she confronts the dark, decade-old secret of the very real Nightmare on Elm Street. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum.
Does it really say that?
Yeah, that's what it says on the back. Yeah, dude, old VHS back in the box are fucking poetic, my guy.
They tell you everything.
They give you everything. Right? I was waiting for like the stat block on Freddy, 5'10", 175, the 78-inch reach or something. I was waiting for the stat block.
Really loves sweaters.
The sweater is a little weird, I will admit.
He likes a warm, cozy atmosphere.
You think so? You think Freddy's a Christmas guy?
I think he's doing whatever invites children.
God, we should really just start with that, right? I know this is like Johnny Depp month, but like this is Nightmare on Elm Street. This is Freddy's World. This is Robert Englund's England.
Yeah,
England. Okay,
England.
Cool. Robert Englund's jewel, right? This is his franchise. Because we were talking about this beforehand. This franchise does not exist without Robert Englund. Just does not. Because what is it? Somebody, I was listening to it, and I guess he was like the third or fourth choice to be Freddy. Like, I think they wanted, I think Lance Hendrickson at one point, they were talking about getting him in this.
That would have been really interesting. But
Weird.
I don't know if that would have worked.
It's the thing where it's like, he made the character so iconic, right? And this version, this is like interesting because by the time you get to Nightmare 4, or is it 3 or 4, where he starts being like funny and he stops being like menacing?
I think you see hints of it in 3, but in 4, I think he really just goes like balls to the walls with just being funny.
Yeah, but in this one, he's scary.
No, yeah. That's why I like the first one and the second one. And I appreciate that they at least kept it as dark as possible for the character.
I would say that the second one, it gets way like more darker and predatory, but the second one is also a whole can of worms to get into, especially if you watch some of the making of documentaries of that movie. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, right? Where do you want to like get started talking about this very interesting slasher movie?
Well, I mean, we've already talked about dreams. Should we talk about characters?
Why not? So, we should talk about the most interesting character in the entire movie.
Freddy?
No, Nancy's mom. Who, like, she is she the worst actress in this film? Is she, I know she's trying to play alcoholic, but she feels like a Valium addict. I don't know. Thoughts? Opinions?
I've never figured it out. I mean, for the most part, like, I've never, like, I don't feel like I've ever, like, formed an opinion. I've always just been like, oh, there's her mom.
Here comes Marge.
Here comes Marge.
It's going to be interesting.
Well, it's one of those things because, like, I think the movie is incredibly interesting. I think the premise and everything, like, the movie is carried, like, so well. And I think, like, Heather Langenkamp, Johnny Depp, Robert Englund, and John Saxon, they're doing, like, great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the rest of the actors are almost, like, a little 50-50 for me.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'm not sure if that's just me.
You know, it's so funny. On the ride over here, I was actually thinking about, like, Rod, the dude who plays Rod.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was thinking about him on the way over, like some of the ways he would deliver his line, like the fruit cake, or like when he like catches Nancy and like brings her in the bushes and he tries to tell her he didn't kill Tina.
Yes.
And he was like, "I'm warning you," and I was like,
that doesn't bode nearly as well as you think it does, Rod.
Yeah, like in my head, I was like, that was probably really bad.
He's got blood on his hands, on his neck. I swear I didn't kill her, but I'm warning you, woman.
I also love how the fact that like because this is supposed to take place in like Springwood, Ohio, right? Like middle of nowhere. Why does Rod have this kind of weird Brooklyn accent? Nancy, I didn't kill her, I swear.
In the middle of downtown LA?
In the middle of... it's shot in downtown LA, but I think it's funny that he has this weird, like, Italian accent in the movie that is kind of drifting in and out depending on the line reads he's giving.
Is he supposed to be Italian?
I think so, yeah.
Is he actually Italian?
No, I think he's Hispanic.
I mean, his name's Rod Lane.
His character name?
Yeah.
I swear to God, because that's something that I was looking in, because the actor was Hispanic, and when they cast him in the role, they were like, "Oh, we want you to play like Italian or whatever." So we just put on like a Brooklyn Italian accent, and they were like, "Gold,
Ohio,
gold, you got this, my guy."
I guess it low key kind of makes sense, especially like if you look at like a lot of like horror films at the time, like the bad boy, like the bad guy, that's normally what you kind of like think about. Is like, I mean, they gave him like the leather jacket and shit.
They're just like, we're working in ethnic stereotypes. It's still the 80s, guys. All right, we're still fine. It's also weird that it's like it takes place in Springwood, Ohio, and I'm like, why is it that all these slasher movies have to take place in middle of nowhere America? Like Halloween is Illinois. What is it? Crystal Lake is in like Jersey, I think, but it's like nondescript, like rural Jersey.
I think the whole purpose of that is just kind of like giving you an area an area that's like unsuspecting, like somewhere that you think that these things wouldn't happen, you know? Because if you pick like a high crime area, it's like, well,
yeah,
it's kind of Nightmare in Chicago.
Yeah,
like,
it's like, yeah, no shit.
This ain't the worst thing that happened to me today, Freddy. What the fuck, my guy?
Yeah. So,
but yeah, so God. So like, yeah, let's just get into that, because the movie starts with Tina, right? And I don't know about you, when the movie first time I saw it, I thought Tina was gonna be our like lead character, right? Because
they pulled a psycho.
Fucking Wes Craven pulls a psycho in like every one of his movies. I swear to God,
and it's great every time.
Every time. But yeah,
I didn't know you were done. I was listening.
Thank you.
You had me tuned in.
No. Dyllan right now is being the best guest. He listens to my ramblings. But yeah, we start with Tina. She's having the bad dream, right? And it's the first time we see like the world, right? And I think this is like the beautiful part of Nightmare is we don't start in like the real world. We start in like the dream world, right? And we're following Tina around, and she's like scared. There's a lamp for some reason. But how would you like describe, Tina, I guess, as a character? Is she just supposed to be like fodder so that we think she's the main character and dies, or is she like, is there a character beyond that?
No, I think I think it's all set up. And like the more I try to find anything like for her that is actual like depth, it's like not really there. Cuz she just feels like the, not to call her like a slutty girl, but like that's kind of like what they have her as for the most part. Like she's that for that movie, and then they kill her off early. Like they definitely like try to make you think that she's gonna be the girl, like the lead, but they kind of like, as the movie goes on, I guess like when the sleepover happens, I think that's when they start to do the switch,
leaning it more over to the Nancy side.
Yeah, like you start to see that like when Rod comes over, and then like Heather turns Johnny away. Like that's when you realize that she's the innocent one, and then like they go ahead and they fucking kill Tina.
I also like how like they're having like a nice sleepover or whatever, and Nancy and Glen. Also, I love how Johnny Depp's character's name Glen. Super, that is a jock name right there.
He's a hot Glen.
He's hot Glen, and they're like, oh, they're gonna sleep downstairs. It's gonna be fine. And Glen's lying there, and he's like, this is gonna be a nice sleep, and he just starts hearing loud, aggressive fucking upstairs, and I'm like,
it's a horror movie. You don't do that.
Exactly, but I'm also like, that's rude. That is so rude. You're just like, my friends are sleeping downstairs.
That's high school.
I'm just gonna be yelling, Rod is God. God. I'm like, what are you doing, people? That is so rude.
There's a line that he says. I think he says, "I hate morality" or some shit like that. Like he's like he clearly looks miserable as fuck.
He's like, I hate reality.
He's like, God, I wish I was up there. Boo, boo, boo. But that is interesting, because it's like I think you nail it on the head. Like Tina it's the whole thing of like the 80s slasher morality tale, right? The slutty girl, she can't be our final girl. It has to be the nice virginal one. So like as soon as we see, oh, Tina, she's like the non-virginal one, she's the irresponsible one, then we know Nancy, that's our final girl. And how would you like describe Nancy? Because she's feels almost like a evolution of Laurie Strode character from Halloween. but I think Nancy's pitched like supposed to be younger. I actually have no idea how old these kids are supposed to be. I think somebody makes a passing mention that they're like 15 or some shit, but none of them read 15.
None at all. I feel like I've kind of like always given up on trying to like detect like the teenage age. As soon as they just say teenagers, I'm like, all right, okay, we're just gonna go with it. Because the minute I try to like actually buy into like their ages, then they say something like they're 14. They clearly look like they're like 25. I'm like, no.
Well, that's just the 80s, man. You know, you didn't get out of high school.
Do that.
You didn't get out of high school until like you were 32 in 1984. All right,
Jesus.
like life happens, man. But yeah, like how are we like describing like the Nancy character, right? Because the first time we see her at the sleepover, or I guess high school, right?
Yeah.
She almost comes off as like the kind of like maybe not nerdy, but like quiet, reserved.
She does
girl.
wear khakis.
She does wear khakis. That's a dead giveaway.
This is the 80s, so
she got mob pants on.
I feel like Nancy is an example of like a really, really like strong and like courageous and like smart female protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I really liked is like when we, I guess like at some point we'll get to the end, but like she does research and she starts figuring out how to set traps and shit. She's like, I'm not gonna get got.
Yeah.
I love.
It's like, damn, Nancy, you figured it out for everybody.
Well, we can even get it because she has like a real arc of starting off being like, I don't really know what to do. She keeps asking Glen, like, hey, how do we do this?
And she's completely in the dark compared to the parents that know everything that's going on, but we're just not going to tell everybody what's happening.
That's like a huge theme of the movie, too. What is
so
it?
Annoying.
The sins of the parents being put onto the kids, and also like that huge disconnect between like the adults and the kids and all this other stuff. That's a huge theme of the movie. But I do like how Nancy's like whole arc is, I'm going to take charge of my own fucking life. Screw you, Mom, and screw you, Dad. I'm going to booby trap the house like an adult, like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. That's how I'm going to take care of business.
That hasn't happened yet. We don't know who Kevin McAllister is, but I'm going to do it.
I'm convinced that Home Alone Chris Columbus stole the whole concept from the last 15 minutes of Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm convinced. You can't prove to me otherwise.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, the mom was just upstairs while she was building all of this.
It was all that gin.
She's there like on her fourth glass of vodka. She's like, the sound of power tools and small range explosives. This is just nice.
It was gin, not vodka.
What was it, gin?
Yeah, I was looking at the bottle on the counter and it says really big gin. I was just like, oh.
Is it one of those movie prop bottles
Yes.
where the label is just like beer?
That's what I was trying to see what brand it is, and I'm like, oh, it's just gin. Mom's just getting fucked up, and that's why she keeps disappearing.
Oh god, that's another thing about like the whole mom character, right? Is her mom is like a hardcore like alcoholic, right?
But she does try to hide it.
She does. She hides it in the
Nancy
linen closet.
comes into the kitchen and she's just like, yeah, good morning, how you doing? Yeah, I'm breaking my arm back here, but good morning.
Well, that's also one of the like I think that's one of the most like powerful like character scenes in the movie is when she's like, maybe I'll just go and drink and be blotto like you, and then her mom slaps her, and I'm like,
a real slap.
Oh, was that a real one?
Yeah, it was a real slap.
Fucking method, damn it.
They're like, we were in the moment. She's like, yeah, she just like rocked me.
She probably needed it at the time.
Jesus Christ.
She's like, I'm working with all these damn kids.
I also like how her mom's supposed to be like, yeah, I'm your mom or whatever. I'm like, you look like 5 years older than Nancy, maybe?
I would put like 15.
Yeah.
You put like 15?
Yeah, like
she had her in 13 and it's been one of those kind of things.
Well, I don't know like exact like because people age differently, but like I would say she's believable in like presence as a mom because she has a more like mature look versus like
Heather Langenkamp's like very like petite kid look. I think
she looks like a kid.
She looks real young.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is? I think she makes a mention like she looks in the mirror like, God, I look 20 years old.
Oh yeah, yep. No. That's is that when she is looking at like the gray hair?
I think so. I think it's like that after she like wakes up from the nightmare or something like that. And she's talking to Glen.
That was a knife to the heart when she said that.
Isn't she only like 20 when she's making this movie, or she's like 19 or
she's
some
like
shit?
17. She's like, look like I'm 20.
I'm over here like, man, I wish I looked like I was 20. Man, that'd be nice.
I don't know. I think it was earlier this week, I was told that I still look like a teenager. But like I don't feel like I look like a teenager, but like I feel like I don't look 27. I mean 26 at least.
You had to correct that real quick. You're like, I ain't that old yet.
I will be in 3 months.
Okay.
Almost. You look young.
Thank you.
We'll go watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, I'll get Robert Englund to give you a cameo for your birthday.
That would be interesting.
So we meet. So that's like the Nancy character. She has the big arc or whatever, but with her is the man of the month, his first, film appearance, Dyllan's favorite actor of all time, Mr. Johnny Depp. Your favorite role of his was Johnny Depp playing himself in the trial, right?
I don't know if any of those things are true.
I feel those are all true.
Is Dean talking? Usually nothing's true.
I sit on a throne of lies.
You do.
I would not consider... I think Johnny Depp is definitely like someone that I love watching. I don't know if Brando is my favorite actor. But
a man of the classics,
we
yes.
love Brando.
We almost did a Brando month for this year, right?
It's always been on the list, and something changes, and we have to push it back.
Well, it's because Brando had such a long career, and it's like, what phases do you pick? Because there's always the sad turn of like, do we get to do fat, like, I don't give a fuck Brando? And which weird fat, I don't give a fuck Brando movie do you do? Because Island of Dr. Moreau looms very large for me.
You could do that, and I think he has a movie with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, where he plays like the Godfather, right? As like it's like a comedy, I think.
It's an entertaining movie.
You're smiling. You're like, that's my favorite Brando performance.
Fuck no. But it was, it's not like incredibly like in my head, but like I remember watching it and enjoying it for what it was. It's one of those pictures.
I gotcha. But yeah, so Johnny Depp, you're the Brando of the 1980s, of course. I'm just gonna keep throwing that out there. So
he does ride a motorcycle.
He does ride a motorcycle.
Not in this movie, but
later.
In general, yeah.
But Johnny Depp, right? This is his first movie, and this is before or after 21 Jump Street.
I think it would be after.
Was it?
Because he's like 21 or 22 doing this.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, I think it was his feature film debut. I don't know if it was like exactly like, I think he had been acting.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure he was acting doing like, I don't know if he was acting doing like local shit, like commercials and stuff, but I know this is like his first like movie. I know 21 Jump Street is what basically he wrote a lot of the 80s out on, and that's him like teen heartthrob on like the good looking guy on, Teen Beat magazine or whatever.
21 Jump Street was 1987.
Oh, so it's like way after this.
Damn.
Oh shit. So this is like his first like thing. So I guess like how would you describe like Johnny Depp in this movie? Because he's not playing like a jock. He's not really playing a geek. He's like what is his character arc or character type in this?
I think you can safely call him like a little bit of like an in-betweener. Like there's always like that character that's like the asshole jock, and like maybe
which is Rod.
Yeah. And then there's always like the dude who's like maybe like a little bit more sensitive to everybody. And I feel like he's not like extra sensitive, but he's also like not necessarily like the asshole either, but I feel like he's like perfectly in the middle, which like makes sense just for him. And like when you look at like Johnny Depp, especially like at that time, he doesn't really look that like super athletic at all, so it like kind of like fits that he wouldn't be like physically imposing, but he also like, he looks attractive.
Would you describe him as a beautiful man, Dyllan?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I have that on record.
He's the boy next door.
Okay. He's the boy next door.
Yeah, he's the boy next door.
So like
the beautiful boy next door.
So Becky, I guess that's an interesting question, because like Johnny Depp, he was like for the 80s or whatever, his whole thing was teen heartthrob. He was the pretty boy, right? And I don't know when people realized he was like a really good actor that could go beyond that. That's probably like
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands. That was like 90, 91.
That was 90.
90. Okay, when he started hooking up with like the Tim Burton stuff. But in this, do we get signs of him being a good or even a great actor from this, or is it just like they gave him the script, thankless role, he did the best he could, and then like walked out of it?
No,
Like, do you think he's a good actor in this?
Yeah, I think he's a good actor in this. I mean, he's playing Nancy's boyfriend, so it's just, let me take a step above that and, try to help her, kind of. Because, I mean, when she's like, hey, you need to watch over me when I sleep, and he falls asleep and ruins it, I was like, that's a total Dean move.
Wow.
I'm like, that's something Dean would do to me. So I'm like,
Becky
this
watches
feels very
slasher
realistic.
movies, and she's like, that right there, that's me and Dean right now. And I'm like, what? When you get mad at me for letting you fall asleep? Well, what's all this bullshit?
I feel like you get bits and pieces of like who Johnny Depp is gonna become. Like when Rod first comes over and whatnot, like
and he's terrified. They hear the noises outside, but he still protects the girls.
Yeah, like
sexism, by the way, sending the man out to just go die by the slasher in the garden. I see how it is.
You would send me out and lock the door behind me. Sorry, Boo. It was nice knowing you.
I would not lock the door. That'd be rude. I'd give you the chance.
Well, like a little bit after like they realize like it is like Rod and whatnot. Rod says something to Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp is kind of like he fucking goes he does something like super silly like right back at him, right back at him, like something that like you would see him do like modern day or something like you see him doing like Pirates.
It feels like he gives him one of those like dude you suck faces or whatever, and that feels almost like an improv move in the moment where it's like, okay, there's like he has stuff other than like what's on the page that he's working with, which is interesting for him being so young and doing it. Because I feel like if as an actor, it takes a while for you to get comfortable in your own skin to start trying stuff, and it feels like he's kind of there like at the start.
Yeah,
I guess that was the thing with him and Wes Craven, where he kept asking Wes Craven like, "Am I doing okay?" And Wes Craven's like, "You're doing fine. Don't worry about it." So it's kind of weird to think of Johnny Depp not being confident, but it's like he's always had that talent.
I imagine that was probably after he had to give Nancy the Yoda talk of like, there was this story I read about these monks having dreams that could control them as they're walking across the bridge with the fountains, and I'm like, bro, aren't you supposed to be like 16? Where are you reading this? Where are you like, yes, the ancient monks of the Tibetan monasteries, they controlled their dreams. What the?
In Venice,
why is he
Ohio?
Yoda all of a sudden?
Who knows? They probably have a good school in Ohio.
Yes, in bumfuck Ohio. It's like, yes, we have these ancient tomes on the Tibetan monks and their dream paralysis kung fu or some shit.
I mean, I would hope, as nice as that fucking place always looks, like I would hope like the school system is nice.
Oh god.
Even the tagging on the school was very minimal. Motley Crue, Kiss, Metallica. I was like, wow.
Wait a minute. Metallica would exist in 84. Okay.
Yeah, when Nancy's coming out of the school after she has her freak out, it's like written in Sharpie, really small on the wall. I'm like, wow.
The art department was like, we can tag it, but we only get like 6 by 6 to do the tagging. We promise
we're gonna paint it right after.
Yeah.
Was that shot in an actual school?
The school they shot in? Yeah, it was a real place. Is it like Pasadena High?
No, it's John Marshall High School in Los Feliz.
Oh, okay.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, everything. It's local.
Well, that's the thing.
It's a very LA movie.
It's weird because you watch the movie, most of it is real locations. Like the only sets are like obviously like Glen's bedroom and Tina's bedroom.
The bedroom and Nancy's house. They built that on a soundstage. The interior.
The interior,
not
right?
The exterior.
Yeah, but like those are like the only like fake ones, right? Because I think even like the slumber party when they're in the living room, that's like a real house. It's only like the bedrooms because they had to do the flip thing, which like the
house is in
I love
Venice, Los Angeles.
Oh, it's in Venice?
Yeah.
That's not that far. But I love how watching like the Tina thing, she's spinning and all that stuff. I'm like, somebody watched old Fred Astaire musicals.
They did.
I like that. That's cool.
I haven't seen much Fred Astaire.
Oh no?
No.
Okay, like I ain't gonna lie. Like they're Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. They're like old classical kind of song and dance movies. But that guy could fucking dance. He can put some moves out.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you see Fred Astaire briefly in in the Green Mile? Don't they watch like?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Are they watching Top Hat or are they watching Swing Time?
Because isn't isn't that when he's singing Cheek to Cheek?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, that's Swing Time.
Yeah.
Which, okay, Cheek to Cheek, all-time classic love bangers, just throwing it out there, guys. But I just love that, like, because what movie did he do it where he did the dancing on the walls and he did the whole, like, dance all up and around the room or whatever?
I watched the documentary last night and I forgot what the name of that movie was.
Yeah, but Fred Astaire did that move or whatever, and Wes Craven saw it and he's like, that would be so cool if somebody was having a nightmare and they got crawled up around the walls
That'd
or whatever like that. And the effect works because they keep fucking Rod, like, I don't know, bolted to the floor. It's like, oh my God, Tina, no. And he's doing that. And I'm like, how are you not throwing up, hanging upside down for the whole of this take, my guy?
They were saying that the crew was getting nauseated because you walk in and it throws off your peripheral. Mm-hmm. So people had to keep stepping out just to kind of, like, get a breath of fresh air. But, like, yeah, I'd be just passed out on the ground. Like, yeah, that's okay.
I didn't know they actually spin the room for that scene. I know they did it for
Glen's death with the blood.
Yeah,
no, because for the Tina one they did it for the whole room spinning.
They had to bolt everything down.
Yeah,
They even made a point of, like, yeah, we had to, mat his hair down so his hair didn't, stand up from being flipped upside down. I'm like, attention to detail.
That's overkill. Why would you do that, guys?
I mean, just looking at how it turned out, it's pretty impressive. Like, it's not noticeable at all.
It's also, like, that's one of the... to me, is, like, the scariest kill of the movie. It's, like, the most brutal one, right? Where it's Tina freaking out. She's, like, throwing herself all around the room. There's blood just exploding out of her chest or whatever. And then she's just, like... almost spider walking or being dragged across the room and Rod staring like, what the fuck is this? What?
Can you imagine being Rod and seeing that? Just being like...
I was just here for a good time.
You just wake up, there's screams, you're getting kicked off the bed, and then like there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, there's blood everywhere, and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? And then she starts just getting dragged across the wall, and you're like, oh. And then she's on the ceiling, you're like, I'm going to prison for this. There's no way I can describe this and not go to prison for this.
Was there blood on the walls after Tina died?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I just assumed they were like, Rod really went at her, just dragged her across, and he jumped on the bed and shoved her against the ceiling.
Cops do such.
Dude, that is the thing about this movie. The cops in this are fucking awful. The fucking parents in this are fucking awful. It's the thing where I think that's so good about Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Because in like other slasher franchise, right? Like the parents in Halloween just don't exist.
No,
they're just non-existent, right? In Friday the 13th, the adults, they don't really exist. But in Nightmare, not only do they exist, they play an active part in ruining their children's lives. And they're kind of like the ones that begin the whole trickle down of like, we killed Freddy and now he's coming after you.
To be honest, I think that's kind of like it's one of the key things that actually makes Freddy terrifying, because in it, Nancy is like trying to get help. She's trying to tell people, and the adults don't believe her. So what's scarier than like seeing something you don't understand and you trying to articulate it, and like the people that you're telling are like, yeah, go sit over there. It's not real.
It's not even the fact like the people that you're telling, it's like your own parents. You're like, Mom and Dad, I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. Can you please help me? And they're like, it's fine.
Just go to sleep.
Just go to bed. Just go to bed. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst case scenario. Because
would you like some more milk?
Oh, fucking! Is that a real thing? Does that actually do anything?
I was so upset when I saw that.
The warm milk?
Yeah. Oh, I remember the first time I watched like Nightmare, it was like 2010. It was, so the remake was getting ready to come out, and I was at my friend's house, and we're like, hey, it's getting ready to come out, let's just watch this one. So we're watching it, and we both looked at each other like, I wish my fucking mom would offer me some warm milk. Never happened.
Yeah, that is not a real thing. I was like, Mom, I can't sleep. My mom would be like, okay, you got school tomorrow. Then just slam me around and go to bed. It'd be fine. No warm milk. It was awful.
Are you guys familiar with like the thing that kind of like inspired Nightmare?
Yes, but only vaguely, because it was something to do with like somebody was dying or people were dying or something in like LA from nightmares
in the camps.
There was so Wes Craven talks about There was, I think there was like a little news thing that he read where pretty much this, I think he said Cambodian family. I don't know how like accurate that is, but they came over here to Los Angeles, and pretty much the kid had like severe nightmares, and the nightmares got so intense, and he started talking to his parents. He was like, "Hey, these aren't normal. Like, I don't know what's going on. There's something.
They're ruining my life. I can't." Like, yeah.
And they're like, "You just need to get some sleep." And then eventually, like, he started like staying up all the time. They found a coffee pot in his like closet and whatnot. And then they tried giving him sleeping pills. He would not take the sleeping pills. He would like pretend like he's taking them, and I believe he was hiding them under his pillow. And then they said one night he was on the couch watching TV and he passed out, so they took him upstairs. And then they said when they took him upstairs, they just heard like all this like ruckus coming from the room. And when they like went there, like in the room, he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
He had one of those like crazy like violent night terrors, and his like what, his heart gave out? Was that like the thing, did Freddy come for him?
It was also lack of sleep too.
I like how you just hit me with the, I mean, Freddy might have come for him. You just hit me with that look right now.
Well, no, that was more for like the heart failure thing, because I think the autopsy said it wasn't heart failure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is like,
because Wes actually talked about it.
That is so fucking creepy.
And it was a thing where like it had happened, and like 3 months later it happened to somebody else, and it was just like, oh god,
that is fucked.
I think that's like so interesting about Wes Craven as a filmmaker, right? Because he'll see like, oh, this looks like, you know, this is like a real life terror or whatever. This is a real life thing, and he's like, how could I take that, make it a little bit more like surreal or interesting, or add some element to it to make it even more like elevated, and then I'm gonna make a movie about it. Like Nightmare on Elm Street is a perfect example of that. I mean, even I know you hate this movie, People Under the Stairs, right, where he's like, housing crisis, oh, these landlords kind of like running out, you know, the people of neighborhoods. How do I take that, add some really weird surreal elements to it, and then make a movie about it? Also, come on, how do you not like People Under the Stairs? I love that movie.
I just remember reacting to it like this wasn't it.
This wasn't it?
No. Like, I definitely think there are like a list of films that I need to rewatch. Like Serpent in the Rainbow, for sure I need to like rewatch. But like, I just remember like going through People Under the Stairs and just not enjoying it.
It's got Vin Rames. You don't like Vin Rames? Come on.
I love Vin Rames. I think I was upset when he died. Maybe that's what triggered all this.
We were all upset when he died,
yeah.
All right? He's an American treasure.
Him and fucking the 2005 Dawn of the Dead, kiss my smooth shaven black ass.
Oh god, okay. Okay, fun story about
Another movie that traumatized me.
Becky was horrified of that movie for years. Refused to watch it until when? When was the first time you watched it in like a decade?
Oh, man. So a couple of years ago, AMC started doing like $5 mystery horror movies. And they're like, it might be Halloween Kills that you get. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go to the first one. And we're sitting in the theater. I'm like, we get the Universal logo. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. We're going to watch Halloween Kills for $5 for everybody. And then it starts to play, and I'm like, I remember this. How do I remember this? And then it's Dawn of the Dead. And I'm like, oh my god, I need to get out of this theater.
I'm like, literally,
everyone's going to start turning. This is horrible.
I'm like literally sitting there like, oh man, I haven't seen this in a while. And I look over and Becky just has the dead-eyed stare. And she's like, oh no. Oh no.
How did Dawn of the Dead traumatize you?
I just watched it and I was so excited because I love Night of the Living Dead. And I was like, okay, this is going to be so cool. And I watched it. It just scared me for whatever reason. And then I had consistent zombie dreams for like a decade.
Was it them running fast, or was it like...
Oh, definitely them running fast. The lady in the wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
I like how Dyllan was like, okay, now I'm on your page now. Okay, I understand now.
I can see how a person could get terrified by that. Yeah.
The Twitchers, when they had to, shoot them twice because, they just started twitching out of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, it just scared the shit out of me.
It's also the thing with, like, zombie movies. They have, like, layers of, like, why people get afraid of them. Because I notice people who are, like germaphobes or whatever, they're like zombie movies for some reason just
hello.
Exactly. Zombie movies just like freak them out because like, oh, you can get infected and it's like, ooh, get sick like that. Like that's like a layer that's like spooky to it. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's interesting. You're like, it gave you nightmares, like a Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
But where did we start? What were we talking about a second ago? Because there was people under the stairs and Vin Rames and smooth black asses. What was this?
Oh, no, it was that's how we got.
Yeah, yes, there we go. I remember the lead up. I don't remember where it came from. Dylan's favorite line in all of cinema: "You can kiss my smooth shaven black ass."
It's up there for sure.
Top five favorite lines.
Yeah.
Okay, but we get back to the movie, right? So Johnny Depp, all that stuff, but then back to Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, because he looms large over all of this, and we kind of stopped talking about him, but now we really need to talk about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Robert Englund became so iconic as Freddy Krueger, and what is he doing in this movie where he's on screen for 15 minutes, maybe, that is so impactful, that made him the icon so quick?
Personality.
I think it's a combination of him and Wes Craven, and I think they were in total sync of what needed to be done. I think Robert Englund understood the assignment, and he understood what Wes Craven wanted. I was listening to him talk about reading one of the first drafts, and like apparently at some point the hat got taken out because Wes started to feel less confident in certain things, and he went and he like brought an entire wardrobe of hats just so Wes's vision of like in the original script of like that hat could happen. So I think he just really understood like the character and what Wes Craven wanted, and like I feel like those two together kind of like really like did everything possible to kind of like manifest that character.
It's also interesting when you say like, oh, the hat, he's very specific on trying to build Freddy and the look and everything, because I know that the look of Freddy Krueger is based off of a guy that Wes Craven saw when he was like 12 or 10 or whatever. He like looked out his window and there was just this old homelessy guy.
It was a drunk guy.
It was just some drunk dude just chilling in the alley, and he like looked up and he catches eyes with Wes Craven, and Wes Craven, little kid is like, oh, I hope that guy didn't see me. Oh, that'd be weird. And when he peeks out over the window again to see, the guy is like now nose to nose with the window and just goes boo and like scares him. And I think it's fascinating, right? Wes Craven, as like a child, sees this guy who was just some drunk dude trying to like spook a little kid or whatever, and he's like, that right there, that's a monster. It's a guy who gets joy out of terrifying children. That's Freddy Krueger. And when he's building the character with like Robert Englund, and Robert Englund's like, okay, so this is how I'm going to look, right? Now, how am I going to like portray it? And he comes off as so sinister and joyful. I think that's an interesting thing. Like, Freddy is having fun. When he chases Tina, and he's not chasing her, he's prancing after her. He is having the time of his fucking life chasing Tina down.
And it's horrifying.
It's so weird. It's one of those things where Freddy as a character is like incredibly like off-putting and weird. And it's fun.
I think he definitely shifts what like a horror villain is, because like when you look at like Michael Myers, when you look at like Jason, like these are dudes who just kind of like go forward, and like you look at them and like it's evil. Like they're not fucking with you. They're serious and they're coming for you, and there's nothing you can fucking do about it. They're not playing with their food.
It's the Terminator thing, right? Like that's the
they don't talk.
Exactly. That's the problem with like with I feel like Michael Myers turned into, and what Jason eventually turned into, is they turned into the Terminator. There's no reason, there's no personality. They just march forward and they're killing machines. Also, the Terminator kind of slaps, by the way.
No, I was like going to say Jason actually turns into the Terminator.
Yeah. Jason X, one of the best in the franchise. All right, Dyllan. All right, you can't do that to me right now. Jason X is one of the best in that franchise. Jason X is one of the coolest concepts. I love that.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Great movie, but no. Jason X though has one of the best lines. Where like, hey, do you want to smoke some pot? How about some premarital sex? Oh man, and then it cuts and it's Jason just beating to death the it is great. Jason X, watch that tonight. One of the greatest movies ever made.
Punch in the air. No.
Yes, yes.
Damn enchiladas.
I just remember
that's 5, all right?
I think that's 5 or 6.
I just remember getting to a point of like watching these and like things like that would happen, and I'm just kind of like, bro, come on. I you know, the one that kind of like, it's funny because like we're talking about like Nightmare and like Friday the 13th and like even Halloween, and like, to be honest, who should be up here in this conversation as well, it's fucking Chucky.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what happened? In the third one, they decided to make it extra comical. And
I thought you were saying he went Hollywood.
He did go Hollywood. He did go Hollywood. Was that Chucky?
He sold it.
Dyllan looks so angry. Dyllan, are you remembering like Seed of Chucky? And you're like, no.
Actually,
you look like you're having flashbacks right now, my guy.
Actually, I hate Ronnie Yu. And if you don't know who Ronnie Yu did Bride of Chucky.
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
But he also
Freddy vs. Jason?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking bastard.
Dyllan, do you need the soapbox? Are you about to preach your hatred of Ronnie Yu? Are you about to get canceled about the things you're going to say about Ronnie Yu?
I don't understand how you could make a film that takes two icons.
Because that's what they are. They're fucking icons, right?
Especially at this point. They've both like become at that point bigger than the movies, because people recognize, they don't like, it's rare how many, like I ran across a lot of people like growing up, nobody would ever say a Nightmare on Elm Street, they just say Freddy. Nobody ever said Friday the 13th, it's just Jason.
Yeah.
They're bigger than the movies, and you put them together and you forget both of their histories. And that like Jason being afraid of water was the stupidest thing I've ever that killed it for me, because I'm like, bro,
he literally jumps out of the water to kill people. He loves the water.
Bro traveled to Manhattan in water.
Yes,
that's how he got on the boat. There's this literal scene of him coming like up the chain.
Oh my god, it's one of those things where, like, look, Freddy vs. Jason was one of those movies that I saw. I think I might have seen it like in the theater, I think, but it's one of those movies where I'm like, she does have it on VHS. Oh. Dyllan just like, I'm losing so much respect for you people. Jesus Christ.
No, but there's nothing wrong with having like the VHS. I think that's pretty cool. Like, I was looking at this one and I was like, I don't know. I think it might be cool to start collecting the VHSs again. It's kind of hard, I'm not gonna lie.
They're kind of cool, honestly. The best is if you can keep like playing them, because there's some movies that just play like fucking superb on VHS. Like all the Evil Dead movies, like I don't know why they just look good on VHS. And also, like, you know, this movie, call back to Evil Dead, right? Because they have I
mean, I do love my Jaws VHS 2 tapes.
That's the real shit right there. One of them, special features. They had special features on VHS back in the day. But fun thing, all right, because I just, you know, VHSs, right? So in the movie, Nancy's watching Evil Dead on the TV.
Is she?
Yeah, she's watching Evil Dead on the TV.
It's before Glen shows up to watch her when she's supposed to be, you know, fighting Freddy.
And she's just got Evil Dead rolling on the TV. And what's interesting,
just nodding
right?
Off.
When you watch like Evil Dead, right? In Evil Dead, the actual movie, in the basement, there's a poster of Hills Have Eyes, and it's torn up and it's put onto the wall, right? Because Sam Raimi was like, oh, I saw when Wes Craven did that in Hills Have Eyes, because in Hills Have Eyes, in like the background, there's a torn up Jaws poster on the wall, and in his mind, he was like, Wes Craven was like, that was the old horror, this is the new horror, so tore up the Jaws poster, put it in the background. He's like, I'm gonna do that now. Hills Have Eyes, that's the old horror. Evil Dead, that's the new horror. Puts it up on the wall. And when he met Wes Craven, because he, you know, went to Sam Raimi, be like, hey, can I get rights so I can show your movie in the, you know, my movie, right? And Sam Raimi told him that, and Wes Craven was like, no, we just needed a poster in the background, and we thought it looked cool torn up. And I'm like, that is one of the most, like, I read way too much into a movie moments I think I've ever heard, but it's great. But yeah, so what fun Evil Dead fact. It all relates to Evil Dead with me.
Yes. All roads go back to Evil Dead for Dean.
Yes.
I feel like that's such like a Wes Craven response for him to just kind of like sit there. I feel like he has a very like normal face, and like he talks just like super like, you know, kind of like normal SpongeBob.
Just normal SpongeBob? What's that even mean? No, is he like, I'm ready, let's go get some cheese?
Quite the opposite. You never seen that episode of SpongeBob where he literally loses his edges?
Oh, where he like smooths out? Okay.
Yeah, like that's kind of how Wes Craven talks. And like I could just imagine him just kind of like staring at Sam Raimi and just like he's like, no, not really.
No, it was a thing. Yeah, it was fine.
Wes Craven didn't, grow up in a religious background, and it was a thing where like, oh, movies are the devil. This is the devil, and he was like, movies are kind of lit though.
It is fascinating. Wes Craven as a director and his background is fucking fascinating to me because his family grew up as like Baptist, right? Like super religious. Like they didn't do movies or whatever. I think he said when he went off to college, he was like, I had seen 4 movies up to that point, and I think one of them was Singing in the Rain. And he goes off to college, right? And he's going to study psychology. He's going to be like a psychiatrist. Then he sees some movies or whatever when he's at college. He's like,
8.5, Seventh Seal.
Yeah, 8.5, Seventh Seal. I think one of them was Virgin Springs, which he bases a Last House on the Left on. And he sees those and he's like, I gotta make movies now. And then he goes from growing up as a devout religious person to directing softcore porn until he can make real movies again. Because, yes, there's many softcore 70s pornos directed by Mr. Wes Craven.
Yeah, every now and again, like...
When you're scrolling through your catalog, you're like, oh, this is a West movie. Oh, nice.
Well, like, I remember it hits me, like, isn't Deep Throat?
No, I don't think that's Wes Craven. It might be. I don't think so.
I feel like I forgot the name of the film that he did, but, like it just, like, hits me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's that in there.
When you're sitting there watching some like nice 70s porn, you're like, that frame of that bush right there, that's West through and through. You okay there, Dylan?
No, now I'm like curious to go watch those and see if like he like framed it differently.
It's one of those things where it's kind of fascinating because if you watch Wes Craven's movies, even as he goes on, he still holds on to some of that like grungy, grindhouse, low quality like aesthetics. Because like Hills Have Eyes is like, that's a rough looking movie. Mm-hmm. It looks like one of those grindhouse like hardcore movies. Even Last House on the Left feels like so raw and real and uncomfortable, and it's still got that gringy aesthetic. This is almost where he's kind of getting away from that. It still has some rough around the edges, kind of like grindhouse feel. I think it's mostly just how Freddy looks. Like when you get the close-ups of his mouth and he's like, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy, and he does the tongue flick, and I'm like, oh, that's just How many tongue flicks have you done close-up on, Mr. Craven, that you knew the perfect angle? But it's just interesting. Wes Craven's just a fascinating director, and his partnership with Robert Englund is also incredibly fascinating.
No, for sure. Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. You're like, no, for sure, and then you just stopped. But yeah, because like his relationship with like Robert Englund is fascinating, and Robert Englund is just, he was one of those actors who was like, Wes Craven thought he was like way too young to play the role, and he thought he was like, you're just not it, Robbie. You're just not it.
No, he also wanted a stunt person. Somebody not really known, someone that could, kind of take the abuse that he's going to be doing.
From my understanding, Kane Hodder was almost Freddy Krueger.
I can believe
like in the original like casting or whatever, when they were still like, we'll just get a stuntman to do it.
That would be interesting if Kane Hodder did end up doing. I don't know if like, it's so hard to imagine anybody else like but Robert Englund playing Freddy.
Which, the remakes made it very clear that you can't get anyone else to play Freddy.
I mean, they tried to make him like menacing, and I think it's Jackie Earle Haley. Mm-hmm. I think he does like a good job, but that plus the entire film was just no.
Not a fan of the remake. I mean, it brought you to the first one,
Yeah.
You're just so disappointed that you have to acknowledge it in your story arc.
Well, like, yeah, I have to acknowledge it. Like, but to be fair, like, I hadn't seen it. I was excited about watching it, and it led me to where I needed to go, thankfully. So remakes have their place in the world.
They get you to watch good movies, right?
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time.
That's exactly what I was going to say when we did our Texas Chainsaw Massacre month, and you made me watch all of them, and I'm like, no, Gunnar Hansen is still, that is Leatherface.
Yeah.
Not all these guys after, they're just like, what is going on?
You don't like Texas 2? Texas 2's fun.
That was fun, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. They get into, yes, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You got a thing. You let him cook, baby. Let him cook.
No. It's just because like I was trying to figure out where you guys were at when you said Texas too, because like they never really like they alter the title, but they don't really do anything different. Like there's like Texas Chainsaw 3D and shit. Like
yeah.
Where are we at? I was like, oh
yeah, no. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is the '80s one, which is one of the most '80s black comedies of all. It is one. Dennis Hopper is in there, and he has a chainsaw fight with Leatherface on the top of Magic Mountain. I am only slightly exaggerating. I just don't think it's actual Magic Mountain, and it's wild.
Is that the one with the chili cook-off?
Yes.
Oh.
And they're just like, oh, what is this? And it's a human too. It's like, oh, that's just an old peppercorn that must have get stood in the stew. And I'm like, oh, this is wild. Yeah. But it's like when I watched the original or the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre with like Arlie Emery and all that stuff, and that movie, I was like, oh, this is like pretty good. And you know, he's like ominous and all this other stuff. I like that movie. And I'm like, oh, I gotta watch the original now. And I watched the original. I'm like, oh, well, this movie's just way fucking better. This movie is like obscenely uncomfortable.
What's crazy is that if you notice when you watch that movie, they like show probably half or less the amount of blood.
I think the amount of blood is the same amount that would fill up this medium soda cup here.
It's just, I think it's one of the things like the magic of like filmmaking and just like the scenario, like the death where bro stumbles and Leatherface is just in front of him and he hits him with like the meat cleaver?
It's a meat hammer. It's a tenderizer.
Yeah. And like
which is just worse, right?
And the way he just drops and you see his body convulse, it's way more horrifying. It gives your mind so much more to like chew on than like me seeing him like cut the guy's like leg off in the remake.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's on that, like the implication and, you know, the mind doing all the work. I mean, in Nightmare on Elm Street, right? When they're at the dream sequence when they're in the high school, right? And there's the blood trail in it, and an unseen force just picks up Tina's body bag and drags her off. And I'm like, where did she go? What was that? I don't. Why? And then she bumps into the hall monitor, and it's just one of those things where it feels like the dream world, and it feels like so surreal. Like, why is there leaves all over the hallway for some reason? And like, it's just making your mind do a lot of work to try and just figure out why is it all like this, right?
Like a dream.
Like, why? Yeah, exactly. It's playing the exact thing. Like, your dreams don't make sense, and your brain is trying to figure out like, why does it not make sense? Because when you're in the dream, you don't really realize it's a dream. But when you're watching this, you're like, wait, are we still in a dream? Because, you know, when we get to the ending of it where it's suddenly, you know, shot by a completely different crew, and it's the second unit crew, and they put the ending that Bob Shea insisted to be in. It's it's weird.
I was listening to Wes talk about how like he was just kind of like not really feeling it, and I think it's like a combination of almost 3 different endings, damn near.
I think, because I think the true ending is when Nancy turns her back and she walks away and Freddy like disappears. And that's like, I think that's where Wes Craven probably wanted the movie to end, right? And they tack on
he didn't want sequels.
The great story of all the good horror movies, and they're like, when we made it, we didn't think we would ever get a sequel. 12 movies later, well, we're a franchise now.
Well, John Carpenter is probably the luckiest, because Jesus Christ, if they made like a Thing sequel.
Oh God. They made the remake of it, or the prequel. It's in the same name.
Yeah,
that movie makes me a little mad.
You imagine if like the Thing was like a franchise, eventually he would become. It would be. I feel like the Ghostbusters crossover would have had to happen at some point.
At least once.
Jesus.
I'm so surprised that Nightmare on Elm Street and Ghostbusters didn't have like a crossover movie.
I am more than happy that did not happen.
Well,
you, sir,
Freddy's
don't like
ghost.
joy.
He's supernatural.
He's so like a ghost. He's a ghost haunting the dreams of the children that they can pull out for some reason. He's not. He's fucking magic, yo.
You know what's interesting? I think it's a Ghostbusters cartoon, but they had like Cenobite inspired characters.
like fucking Hellraiser?
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking metal.
I think they did one with Scream, where they do like the phone calls and it's Daphne taking the calls and it's
the Scooby-Doo one? Yeah. That chuckle. That chuckle. But yeah, man, there's a lot of interesting things to talk about with Nightmare on Elm Street. You got any great ones you want to get to before we close out?
Marge going through the door.
The Marge sex doll going through the door, because that is one of the you mentioned this earlier, where it's like some of the effects in this don't like all hold up, but they got a feel to it. They got a vibe. When Freddy's arms extend and you can tell they're fish hook or they're fishing lines, you're like, oh, that's fine. It's spooky. It's weird. Yeah, no, that effect at the end, no, does not hold up.
Yeah, you probably could have done without it, high key. But
high key? No, just key. It is keyed in. Yes, could have done without it.
But I don't know. I think overall it's just kind of like one of those films that you watch and like I feel like you go into it thinking that, oh, I'm just gonna watch it like passively, and like you find yourself getting invested, not just like in the world. You kind of get invested in the characters. I say kind of because you get more invested in Nancy and like her situation in relation to Freddy versus like all the characters, because not all the characters are great. But like, yeah, as you start to go through it with her, like you start to feel horrified as well, because you could picture yourself. I think everybody's had nightmares where they wake up and they're like, oh fuck, well, I'm glad that's over.
Yeah.
Imagine the one where it's like, nah, every time you go to sleep we're revisiting this.
Same guy keeps showing up.
I think that's interesting. You talk about like Nancy, you get invested in like the characters. Nancy's her whole thing, because it's one of those things I noticed watching it this time around, that there's a whole weird like backstory underneath Nancy's character that's not really brought up. Like her parents are divorced, right? And her mom's like an alcoholic, and her dad's like not really there. Like the only time he seems to show up in her life is when he's a police officer that is called to a scene.
You mean when she's showing up to the precinct?
Yeah, when she's showing up to the fucking precinct, right?
Nancy, what are you doing? It's 3:00 in the morning.
And I'm also like, what the fuck are you doing at the police station at 3:00 in the goddamn morning? What are you doing here?
He's working another shift. Maybe that's
He's
how
like, I'm married to the job now.
Maybe that's how he deals with his like depression and problems. Like his wife is dealing with it through heavy like alcoholism, and for him, he's like, I'm just gonna keep working.
And Nancy's just on her own.
I mean, you see what he turns into. What he like, after the job doesn't, pad out. Like in the third one, he's a drunk.
Yeah. Him and Marge, just they had a lot in common.
They found each other in the third one.
Jesus Christ!
I really understand her now.
It's just, man, it's just a fascinating thing, because there is interesting layers on top of the movie, right? Because it's like, even Tina's mom, like at the very, very beginning, when she wakes up, she's scared, and her mom's like, Tina, what's going on? And it's just some dude, not her dad, is like, what's going on, baby? And they go off to Vegas and just leave her there. And we're like, yeah, Tina, she's died. We're trying to get a hold of her mom in Vegas, but she's, we haven't gotten in touch with her yet. And I'm like, okay, so these are kids who aren't like in Friday the 13th, right? Where they're like, oh, we've gone off to the summer camp, so we're just away from adults, and we're just going to have a fun weekend away, right? Or like in Halloween, where it's like, oh, we're the babysitters, right? We're those responsible adults, and the Michael Myers is going through whatever, and it's just they can't get in contact with the parents. This one's almost like the parents don't want anything to do with their children, and they are kind of at worst for it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that's another thing that kind of like adds to like the horror, like makes them like perfect victims for Freddy, because like the parents are present but they're extremely absent. And when you think about like children getting abducted, it's more like there are times where like, or you think about like when children are at the park and whatnot, and like the parent isn't paying attention, and then you turn around and you're like, where'd my child go?
Yeah, or the parent who's like, yeah, I stepped over here to grab something out of the car, and I come back, my kid's gone.
And you think about it, that's exactly how like Freddy operates.
I mean, we can get into the weird shit. So Freddy the child killer, totally just a child killer, all right, as far as the canon goes, for legal reasons.
So weird thing is, it was like I feel like in the commentary, Wes Craven doubles down on him being a child killer, but I feel like in later interviews, they like almost everyone is leaning into the child molester aspect.
Yeah, I think it's a thing. Well, obviously, when the movie came out, it was probably like he's a child killer, not a child molester. Because if you call him a child molester, then it's like it's hard to market Freddy, kind of thing. Because then it's like
because Freddy was a big icon in the 80s,
huge icon in the 80s, a huge icon in the 1980s. The stranger danger like era, right? But like. I think if you call him straight up a child molester, then it's like this franchise probably doesn't like really has the same kind of traction because that's like almost too real of a monster to get behind a franchise with. Granted, killing children,
murderers,
murder. But again, everyone's okay with a little murder, but as soon as child molestation comes in, well, that's too far. But it's interesting that Freddy's whole thing is he killed the children of Elm Street. And then the parents were like, we caught him, we tried to, take him to court, and somebody fucked up some paperwork and he got let go. So we took matters in our own hands, vigilante justice, we killed him. And it's like, okay, so Elm Street, for one, worst police station in America, because lots of bad things. And I wonder if that's why Nancy's dad is so dedicated to the job now. He's at the station at 3 a.m. because he never wants another Freddy Krueger mistake again.
And meanwhile, he's like, shut up, Nancy, go to sleep.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm trying to tell you. This man's like, shut up, go to sleep.
He's like, bitch, did I not tell you to go to bed? You have school tomorrow.
It might also explain why he reacts to Rod so, like, heavily, like, the way that he does, like, where he want, like, there is no other explanation. Like, Rod did it. He was there. He's going to jail.
Yeah. And that's like, an interesting thing. Like, even, like, their parents have depth to them, like once you start scratching the surface back and it's in context of the whole Freddy murder and all that stuff, because I'm wondering if like is her mom like a drunk because she's like, I threw a Molotov cocktail into a guy's bedroom and watched him burn to death. I wonder if that's why she might have a taste for the gin now.
I think
especially that she has his fucking glove in the basement and she's like, yeah, Nancy, I drink now, but I have this fucking trophy of the man I saw burn to death in front of me. Yeah, it was just like, nah, Nancy. I'm like, what the fuck?
Nancy, it was complicated times. It was the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, it was like 1975. We got out of the flower power movement. I was coming down off a bad trip, and life happens.
I can see it as like something where like they both, like Nancy's parents both didn't know how to cope, and then like as like time goes on, they start to grow apart and argue just way more. Maybe she starts drinking a little bit more heavily, and he sees that, and he's just like, they just keep like throwing gasoline in each other's fires until they like end up divorcing.
Okay, give me a sec. Let me cook on this. Okay, because you were like they had trouble coping, all this stuff. So this movie premieres in 84, right? So what's 10 years before that? 74, right around the time Vietnam ends. Okay, let me cook here.
Oh, God.
What if this Wes Craven has a very weird, maybe like pseudo look, like above board look at his themes in the movie, and he's like, okay, this is about adults who are traumatized by world events. Vietnam was a huge traumatic thing. They come out of the flower power movement. The 1970s is like the hangover of we almost changed the world with our revolution and we fucking failed. And now there's, people are traumatized by those world events, and now they're raising kids in the 1980s, the Reagan 80s of repression, of capitalism, of pushing everything down. And then he's looking at this as the sins of the parents that have failed their children by failing the revolution, who have gone through Vietnam, who have gone through the huge upheaval, are now bearing down the sins of their past onto their children. And because the adults can't cope, the children are the worse for it. Because now the kids have to exist in a world of rampant capitalism, rampant like consumerism. They have to exist in a world that doesn't care about them as people, like, the 60s, flower power, peace, love, we're all together, this is the world. They have to exist in, it is you against the world, and, now it's you against everything else, and we're just going to take the backseat absentee parent to it, because we don't know how to fucking deal with the world that we created.
I feel like that makes sense, especially, like, if they failed and, like, then
all right, thank God, because I kind of pulled that out of my ass, but I cooked on it. It was good.
Well, I could see it, because, like, if they're extremely, like, defeated after like all that. Like it makes sense why they're like super avoidant or like not really like just kind of like there. They don't want to like be there, you know.
I mean, the defeated idea. I mean, like it's like the Freddy Krueger thing, right? Freddy came in, killed all the children or whatever. Like, you know, Vietnam killed all the kids, all the young men who went off and died for no reason, right? And Freddy Krueger, you know, killed that, and then he fucking got away with it. We took the vigilante justice and we burned it down. We burned Freddy Krueger down. We tried to burn the system down, but we couldn't burn the system down, man. So he kept coming back and getting more of us, man. He's the war machine, man. Fight the power. I really shouldn't have watched Fear and Loathing before this. This was a bad idea.
Yeah.
That would be Nightmare if George Romero did it.
Correct, sir. The Pantheon. Okay, so I might be going off the rails here, but
just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Any final thoughts on Nightmare on Elm Street, Boo?
10 out of 10 for me.
10 out of 10.
I love this movie. It stays scary. It stays authentic.
Authentic.
Yes. Because in a world of remakes that we're living in right now, I love that this is a true classic.
It is a classic. Mr. Dyllan? Are you like 2 out of 5? It's okay, you know?
Jeez, I would never rate Nightmare that low. That is hurtful. We're doing ratings?
You can do a rating. You can say if you liked it or disliked it. You can say
I loved it.
You loved it?
Yeah, no.
Like, does it still maintain, you know, your favorite movie of all time? Did you find any new meaning to it? Anything like that?
I feel like I find something in it every time I watch it. It's funny because I actually go to a drive-in every time in Glendale. They'll show Nightmare as like a double feature, and I always go and I always catch Nightmare.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
nice.
yes. But it's like, it's a film that you can easily get lost into, and like, yeah, the effects aren't like crazy, but like, it's a very, very Freddy works because it's the story, and it's a situation that shouldn't be believable, but like really like gets you invested and takes you where you need to be to like really like sink in.
Nice.
And you?
Oh, nothing. I was just gonna leave with nice. Yeah. Oh no, like yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's again 80s classic. It's a movie that I think holds up, and you know, if it hasn't made apparent, it's a movie that I think has a lot of like depth to it. It's a movie that if you sit and you kind of cook on, you can pull a lot of really interesting ideas out of it. Because I think Wes Craven, his secret weapon is a lot smarter and more clever than I think people gave him credit for. For even though he made like, oh yeah, he's just the guy that made slasher movies or whatever. He's a lot smarter and digs a lot deeper than people give him credit for. And I think even in Nightmare, the movie and series that evolved into Freddy, you know, killing people with the power glove in, you know, the late 90s, it's still a good movie. It's a movie that you can really go back and rewatch, and the characters work. Johnny Depp, his first performance, he's good. He's solid in this. And
thank you to Wes Craven's daughter.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, for real? Was she just like, yo, that boy? Fine. Put him in the movie, Wes.
And her friends, they were like, Dad, how can you not cast him? He's hot. And he's like, I guess.
Fucking Johnny Depp getting by in his looks.
Makes sense to me.
But yeah, so that's A Nightmare on Elm Street, everybody. Great movie. Give it a watch. But what are we doing next week?
Next week is a Dean pick. We are watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes, we are. This movie, I'm going to spoil it, is weird as fuck. It's probably going to be a short movie because it's a vibe movie, but it is...
You mean short episode?
It's a short episode, yeah. It's a vibe movie. It's weird. It's interesting. It's based on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson that we both read, actually.
We both read the book. This is my first time watching the film.
It's going to be wild. But this is that career arc of Johnny Depp going from teen heartthrob to like, I am like the indie art house leading man. I'm working with real directors, Terry Gilliam, based on a book by a guy that I'm going to live in his house and do drugs with. It's going to be wild,
and
guys. Wear his clothes and shave my head. But if you wanted to listen to that, where can they go?
If you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Scotty, save me. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube.
Yep, our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube. You can go there, like, comment, subscribe. We upload video versions of this podcast, kind of, sort of. They're mostly slideshows, but they're fun. And if you want to follow us on socials, you can go to
The Film Clip Podcast on Instagram, where we post daily stories, upcoming episodes, and random adventures we go on. But before that, Dylan, would you like to plug anything?
Shit.
You weren't prepared for this. You're like, I wanted to disappear into the darkness, never to be seen again.
Nah, hold on. I'm plugging a lot. No, I'm joking.
Go off, King. Go.
At Imbu Cinema. I'm a filmmaker, so if you ever want to catch any like the films that I work on, so yeah, at Imbu Cinema, Instagram, website, it's all the same name.
Well, all right then. With that,
we'll see you next week at the Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.
Peace.